I recently got a track to mix from one of my favorite producers, Scott Griffin, and I thought that the low end in the track was amazing. I had to ask him what he was using, and we're about to find out. Scott, how's it going?
Doing good, Mark. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So, Scott, you are a producer in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep.
And maybe thinking that Scott looks familiar, you've probably seen him on the pureMix Logic Quick Start series that he did. It's, in my opinion, one of the coolest, maybe I'm a little biased, but one of the coolest tutorials on Logic that's out on the internet, because it's 10 videos that kind of get you up and started quickly with very little friction and all of that. So if you've seen
Well,
Scott
I'm
before,
definitely not biased, and it is definitely the coolest Logic tutorial series that you could imagine. So yes,
exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, so check out Scott's videos on pureMix. And aside from that, you're making a ton of great music down in Nashville. And as I mentioned in the intro, I recently got a track from you, thought the low end was amazing, and had to ask you about it. So, of course, you showed me Sublab.
Yeah, I was super excited when you asked about that because I had just got Sublab and I was kind of nerding out over how cool it was, and I was excited to show you. So yeah, let's check it out.
Sweet. So here it is. The plugin looks pretty simple.
Yeah, so I think when I first tried this plugin out, I was looking for an 808 style bass that you hear in a lot of like hip hop, trap, EDM, and then of course pop music. And I just wanted something that kind of did that simply, and this is one of those things that just only does that and does it well. So I opened it up. I think I hit like, and then let's try the next preset. Okay, cool. I'm sold. It was as simple as that. Yeah, I think I tried those two presets. I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Sounds great out of the box. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to dig through samples.
Right.
Yeah, beyond that, I really love the approach they took to building this because it does a lot of those things that your mixing engineer wishes you did right out of the box that you don't have to think about, and it does them right away. So there's, you're not spending time doing all these things. But for me, the main thing is I'm in a writing session. In Nashville, we do the co-writing thing all the time. So you meet someone new, you say, "Hey, come over, let's write," and you got to get a track up really, really fast. I just open this up anytime I need this kind of a 808 style bass, and I don't have to think about it. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Two things that you just did. I know before when I was looking for that kind of thing, I had like contact libraries. I think one of them was like 808 Warfare or something like that.
Sure.
And going through it was always, I'd either want it to be like super clean or super nasty, and
Yeah.
you kind of just hit that really fast. Whereas I think it took me longer going through a contact library, even though that's not necessarily a super long process, but just finding like those two tones was kind of a pain. And you don't have the flexibility with those that you have in the plugin that you're showing here. So you have a couple other options inside of it. Why don't you take us through? There's like 3 pages on the sound portion of it, and then it looks like we have some effects and a master section.
Yeah, so the first place to start is there are 3 sections making up the sound. You have the synth, the sampler, and an X sub, which is just those low frequencies. And down here we have a mixer. We can solo out on this patch. Here is your synth, which for this patch, that's the beef of the sound. A lot of times the sample, this is just kind of a filtered out kick drum, giving you that attack at the beginning, and then it just goes away. Other times you can load your own 808 samples into this, and it has a bunch of samples built into it that you can go through. And sometimes that is the beef of the sound, and you'll see in other presets, the synth will be all the way down and the sample is all the way up. So the part that got my nerd brain excited was this X sub page, which shows you which note you're playing. But you can see that as soon as you jump up from C0 to C1, it actually just jumps back down to C0. The X sub does. Now, if I have the synth up with it, that goes up beyond C1. Cool thing is, this allows you to always have that super consistent sub bass low end. No matter where you're playing, whether you're in the C0, C1, C2 octave, it's always going to be there and steady, which is the kind of thing that your mixing engineer will certainly thank you for. Like when we're dealing with bass, a common trick is to do the thing where you would duplicate the track, and then you would do a low pass and just have all of your, your sub frequencies in on one track, and then you deal with all of the low mids and the high mids and all that stuff on a different track, and you would affect them differently. This kind of does that for you by just giving you the individual control over the low end and the synth. And then, of course, we had the sample in this case, it's intact. So that kind of, the three parts of making up this 808 style bass. And it's super cool that you can blend them to your, however you like. And, if you take a look at different samples or different presets, you can see they all have kind of different things driving them. This one is almost completely this sample, which is a bass kick crunch. I assume it's some sort of 808 kind of a thing. If I were to bring up that sub, or the X sub, I would keep my consistent low end mixed in with this 808 sample. So yeah, it's just doing a lot of cool stuff that I think it does. It's the kind of thing where if you don't know how to do all this stuff, it does it for you, which is great. And even if you know what to do, it saves you a lot of time. So, you open up the synth and it just is going to work right off the bat. So that's why I'm a huge fan of this synth, and I have a lot of fun with it. And I don't have to think about it. So yeah, it's cool. It's definitely cool.
Awesome. Yeah. So are there other effects besides distortion and compression that are on there?
Yeah, so you got the distortion over here. One cool thing about that is it you can change how much of what is being sent to this distortion. But what's cool is even the distortion, they approached it right and I had to look this up because up until last night when I kind of did some, I was like, I better do some research if I'm going to talk about this thing. I barely knew how to use this thing because I just open it up. That sounds great. Move on.
Right.
But yeah, so last night I was kind of doing a little bit of reading, and so even for the distortion, they are splitting the low end band, and they don't, they're not distorting that. They're just starting the distortion at the higher frequencies, so that you're not messing up your low end, which you want super focused and down the middle. Another thing they have that kind of takes the same approach is there's a width feature over here, which if you hit there, let's get some back in. That's the same thing. There, you want your low end, your low frequencies to be mono down the middle, hitting your sub, and then everything above that, that's where you want to start to get wide if you're going for this wide bass. So, again, that's just something that the mix engineer normally has to okay, they have a stereo bass, I got to start dealing with that,
Right.
or something like that. So, it does a lot of those kind of things for you. And then you got a compressor. It can do a side chain compression. So if you have the kick and the synth happening, that's built in. You can hit it pretty hard, kind of like a limiter type thing. And, you got some glide over here. You have some filters, nothing you wouldn't expect to be in this kind of a thing. So, yeah, I mean, it's super, it's weird because it's versatile within its very narrow scope.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what I love about it.
Awesome. Yeah. So there it is. Sublab. You can check it out at futureaudioworkshop.com. Scott, if people want to find out more about you, where can they go?
Scott Griffin Music is my Instagram handle thing. So yeah, check me out there.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Scott. See you next time.
All right. Thanks, Mark. See ya.